Hi, I'm JP Werlin from PipelineDeals here in Fort Bonifacio in the Philippines to talk about sales and entrepreneurship. PipelineDeals was born to solve a problem for my old business, which was how do we manage, track, and organize our sales process. Even today, many companies use a spreadsheet or pen and paper to track their sales. And that's what we were doing. We were using a spreadsheet. I knew I couldn't afford some of the larger, more expensive and more overkill solutions on the market. And we found a technology that would make it very simple and easy to use a CRM in my business. So we built PipelineDeals for ourselves first and to solve our problem. Turns out that by solving our problem, we found we solved a lot of other people's problems. So this started in 2006, and we've been organically growing for the past 9 years and are continuing to grow today into over 60 countries around the world. Just like with everything in life, you only get out of it what you put into it. And when we started PipelineDeals, in our second bedroom, on my second bedroom and Nick's kitchen table, we were working 2 jobs. So we had a day job, right, that we would go to from 8 to 5 or whatever. And then at night, we would come home and work on PipelineDeals. And that's hard. That is a long day. You're working 12, 14-hour days, and you do that for 3 years. And it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of follow through. And getting through those first 3 years, you are looking down the barrel of failure every day. And being able to have the faith and the confidence that you're going to see it through and make this work no matter what, was what pulls you through the other side, right? So for us, having that resilience and that commitment to a vision that you were going to succeed and get to a point where the business can start to fund itself and you can get an office space, you could afford a phone number that wasn't your own personal cell phone, where you could hire a customer service person to respond to a customer email and you wouldn't have to respond. That was luxury. So it was a long, arduous journey that you spent many a sleepless night working instead of going out with friends or playing. It took some hard work. A lot of entrepreneurs, it basically comes down to you're going to make it work, right? Mistakes happen, difficulties arise, but you're going to make it work. And you're going to find a way. You're going to find a solution. And for me, it's just an innate confidence that with the help of others, we can find a way to make this business work. And that's what has pulled us through the early years. But more than me, finding some critical early hires, additional team members to employee number 1 was critical. Finding Junior is what we called him, and having his energy and passion and commitment and giving him a forum to realize his full potential was critical. And so you can't do it alone, but we couldn't afford to pay him for a long time, right? So that just, we had to do it on our own for a few years, and then finally we were able to hire the first employee. So if you can get to the point where you can hire, it's critical to hire somebody who really helps you succeed. I think early on, we knew we were onto something when we had a random phone call from a large healthcare company in the United States, and they kind of made a joke that, oh, you guys are in your garage and on a conference call. We just kind of laughed and chuckled and laughed. No, of course we're not. Yeah, we were. We were in our second bedroom. It wasn't our garage, so we didn't necessarily fib, but We weren't in our garage, we were in our second bedrooms, and that customer gave us the ability to hire, right? And it wasn't a lot of money, right? It was enough to pay our first employee. And so that was not necessarily a breakthrough, but it gave us some breathing room. And ever since then, it was about building enough space of breathing room into the business where you could continue to grow without, dipping too far into the credit cards, right? You would have some revenue to offset the expenses. I've had more than my share of failure, and I think that's where I've learned the most. So I embrace failure. I think if I don't push the business near to the point of failure, then we're not pushing ourselves hard enough. So I'm not afraid of failure. And I think if other folks think through their lives, that is success isn't a good teacher. I think failure is a true teacher. And so my goal is to face that failure now with the best people who can see us through. The Philippine culture is young, it's vibrant, it's growing. Growth here makes parts of the cities in the United States look a little bit sleepy. The youthful vigor is critical to an economy, right? I think there's some fundamental things that the Philippines will be focusing on, right? Around banking, around saving, around thinking about the future financially, the adoption of easy payment methods, right? Maybe like Globe's electronic money, right? Other ways to save and store pesos is going to change the way the younger generation thinks about money, and that will translate into businesses, right? So that youthful energy and growth potential is the biggest strength. As far as the cons, I don't see a lot. I think I'm not going to change how the Philippine culture, the Filipino mindset, but what I've learned from my colleagues, and I spent very little time in country compared to some of my friends, and what they tell me is the reticence of some in the Filipino workforce to take the responsibility and step up into a leadership level of a team lead or a management lead is hard to find. And I think those young professionals who see that as not a weakness, but as an opportunity to seize, we have a saying in the United States about like taking the bull by the horns. I think those driven, entrepreneurial, aggressive young Filipinos in the workforce today who step up and say, I am going to take a risk and I am going to try to be successful at my company and take a leadership position, I think they have a very bright future. I think they're going to be the business leaders of tomorrow. I know a lot of Philippine-based companies don't want to hire expats as leaders anymore. They want Filipino born and raised leaders. And legally, they have to have Filipino born and raised leaders. And they need to cultivate the leaders of tomorrow. And those leaders of tomorrow start as team leaders and sales managers today. And so I think that whole weakness opportunity dynamic is true here in the Philippines. And if I could encourage folks in the Philippines in the workforce is to get a little more serious about your career and to get a little bit more motivated. I'm not saying work longer hours. You know, I'm all for working harder. Working smarter, not harder, right? I'd say work smarter, but step up and say, I'm willing to take more responsibility. I'm willing to take a risk. I'm willing to take the opportunity to push my company further. So that's a weakness today, but I don't really couch it as a weakness. I think that's a huge opportunity.